All right, so I'd like to welcome everybody to this episode of Staying Connected. I have a really fantastic guest here with me today. I'd like to introduce everyone to Mark Howell. Mark is the owner of Fund a Life, a nonprofit organization. And about a year ago, I decided that I was going to open up a space for a nonprofit in all of my CaerUSnet groups. A complimentary membership is a way for me to try to give back, and make those connections for a nonprofit. And Mark is the nonprofit that's in the Brighton Tuesday 8 o'clock group. A newer member, yes, Brighton Tuesday 8 o'clock rocks it out.
That's right, baby.
So I'm glad Mark is here to join us today. And we're going to cover a whole bunch of stuff, but I tell you what, Mark's got a really powerful story, and I don't think there's any way better for us to start this conversation than maybe to ask you to just share with the viewing audience how Fund a Life came to be.
Sure. Well, thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me. Yeah, like Steve said, Mark Howell, and my story really begins with in 2012, actually 2 weeks after my firstborn son, Gabriel, was born. I was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma. They found an 18-pound mass in my abdomen. And at the time, they didn't know it was melanoma, and that made it even worse. We didn't know what it was. They thought, oh, because of the size, it must just be a cyst, because there's no way that you'd be living with an 18-pound tumor that's basically the biggest organ in your body right now. There's just no way that would be, there'd be cancer. And so, fast forward a few weeks and the tests and the biopsies and all that, and comes back, undifferentiated, which they didn't know. They didn't know what type of cancer it was. They just knew it's cancer. It needs to come out. And, it was truly just an amazing work of some higher power, whatever you believe in, that led me down the path that then started our next, 4 years worth of journey. And so we, literally when I first got diagnosed with the mass, I was meeting with my doctor, and he was like, you need to see a surgical oncologist immediately. They need to take that out, regardless if it's cancer or not. And I was like, all right, well, give me a good surgeon. He's like, all right, let me go look at my little list, my Rolodex, if you will, and I'll get back to you. So he went in the back, came back. He's like, all right, here's 2 names. I'm like, all right. I was like, any of these guys any good? He goes, they're in your network. I'm like, okay. So which one's better? They're in your network. I'm like, sweet, dude. This is great advice. It's awesome. I'm really jacked up for this. This is gonna be some good odds. But so basically took a stab and called one, which was Dr. Idians. Went and met with him, and he was a real positive guy, and was like, hey, you're a young guy. You're 30 years old. There's no way this is cancer, but we're gonna do all our steps, but it needs to come out. Like, there's not, we can't risk anything. It needs to come out immediately. And so basically right after Thanksgiving was when the surgery was scheduled, and we received the results of the biopsy that Saturday. So like 4 days before the surgery, and he met us at a hospital at like midnight because he was doing surgeries all day. We went up and met him. And he came down, he was all sweaty from surgery, and he's like, man, he's like, I can't believe it. And you could see he was just disheveled, and he almost like he saw a ghost. He's like, I can't believe it. It's it's cancer. We don't know what kind of cancer it is. It's got to come out. Everything's moving forward on Tuesday like we had planned, and let's roll with it. So surgery came and went. Was in the surgery for I can never remember if it was 16 or 18 hours. I feel like I always mix up the pounds of the tumor and the hours, but it was a long time. And, parents were, obviously really concerned, brothers and everything, but pulled through it. There were several things along the way that I learned after the fact, such as he knew it was going to be high risk. He had told us, hey, it's risky, it's surgery, but basically like, you're going to pull through, you're young, you're healthy, things are good. But he aligned, there were some certain procedures during the surgery that normally they would never do because the risk was too high of losing me during the surgery. And, at a certain point, hospitals just won't take on that kind of risk, and they'll just basically sew you up and call it a day, and you'll just kind of wait for your time to come. There was a significant portion vascularly that they had to do. It was going to be the largest graft of a portal vein that they had ever done. And he didn't tell anybody this, including the vascular surgeon. However, they have some kind of a policy that if someone's on the table and then basically the oncologist comes to get the surgeon who has to perform it, they have to do a life-saving procedure no matter what. So he plotted it out so that the best vascular surgeon at McLaren was on call the night of my surgery. And he went through, the surgery. And when it came time for that, he went and grabbed the vascular surgeon, was like, all right, here you go. And the vascular surgeon, takes a look and was like, WTF, what are you doing to me? And, and so he did his part. And then I'll never forget, I wasn't there, but my parents and brothers were, and they always tell this story. The vascular surgeon came into the waiting room and was just F-bombing the place up, was like, this is a Hail Mary, he's never going to make it. My youngest brother, who's a bit of a spitfire, started freaking out, like, what the hell do you mean he's not going to make it? This is crazy. And, just threw everyone into a tizzy as if it wasn't stressful enough. But, I can go on and on about all those little stories, but there's a lot of little things that basically what I'm trying to summarize is our surgical oncologist was a blessing and an angel sent to us. If I would have been in any other situation, I would not have even made it through that surgery, much less, where I am today. So fast forward, we get through Christmas.
This happened in what year, Mark?
This was 2012. So this was the end of 2012. It was right after. So I made it through Thanksgiving dinner, and then I had surgery basically that next week because I wanted Thanksgiving dinner. I had to do that. I love eating food. I just love food. And it was nice that it happened at that time too, because Christmas obviously was 4 weeks away. It gave me a goal to get out of the hospital by Christmas, and I got out like 2 days before Christmas. It gave me something to look forward to, and obviously having my son born was the huge motivator for me. Of my son can't grow up without a dad. That's an absolute no. So
when was he born that year?
He was born October 16th. So he was born, and then we got the news 2 weeks later, and everything just sort of spiraled from there. And there was a pivotal moment where I'm all tubed up, and they started removing things, thinking that I was progressing. And in week like 2.5, they had to put a lot of stuff back in because I regressed, and that was mentally a really low point of just feeling like I'm going to be here forever. You hadn't eaten any food. I hadn't eaten any food in a couple of weeks. All you could do is ice chips, and you're just I'm in so much pain. I'm just angry at everybody. I'm just in a poor spot. And I remember the nurse coming in and was like, you need to, normally I wouldn't suggest bringing your newborn son, into the hospital. But she told the family, like, you need to bring him up here and like remind, Mark why he's fighting through all this and why he's going through all that. And I remember sitting there in the chair. I still have a picture holding Gabriel, in a little Spartan outfit, which was super cool. And, he was I call him my little Superman to this day because he just helped motivate me and keep me in the right mindset all along. But, really from there, it just right after the new year, once I was healed up, they did more scans. They found 5 more tumors rapidly growing, which really blew all the doctors away because they're like, oh my gosh, we got it all on the first swoop. We felt good about that. We thought we were going to have time to kind of, search out good treatments. And my surgical oncologist looked at me in the eye and he said, you need to get out of this hospital. No offense against this hospital. You can't don't go to places in state just because. You need to go everywhere. You need to seek out bleeding edge treatments on the very front lines, treatments for, at that point, they were just now coming to the conclusion that they thought it was melanoma, which was very rare. Normally melanoma is on the skin. I had all internal tumors. So a real rare, case of it. Basically less than 3% of all melanoma cases are internal tumors only, no skin lesions. So I fell in that real rare, situation. And then with such a big tumor and now rapidly growing tumors, they weren't really sure what was going on. So with that, we started seeking out, okay, where are these treatment options? How does insurance work? My wife and I have been married for about 2 years. We don't know what we're doing. And our insurance basically flat out told us that if we were going to seek out treatments anywhere but at McLaren, they were not going to cover it because they had some treatments available. All those treatments basically went from a 10% short-term success rate. That was the best one. And then long-term success rate was less than 1% of the very best treatment that they had available. And so as a 30-year-old male with a newborn, we said, well, we're not doing any of these. Like, we're going to go do something else, and we need to seek it out. And so if you name the cancer clinic, I've been there. And the only way that that was afforded to me was the community got wind of my story. I've been fortunate to live in the Livingston County community my whole life. And this community, as everyone knows, is just amazing and very generous. And they kicked off a campaign to basically fundraise upwards of $200,000 for over the next 18 months. And that literally funded my life through travel, through treatments, through medications, through copays. And, instead of cancer bankrupting my family and emotionally overwhelming us and just crippling us, that was literally never a concern. We had our cancer account that was full of money, and it was amazing how fast it went. But anytime we could go anywhere and do anything treatment related without ever a concern financially. And that was such a blessing. And most people are not afforded that luxury. And so over the next basically 3.5 years, that's what I did. I traveled the US. I did different treatments. I did different surgeries, each one buying a little bit more time. None of them were the silver bullet until eventually there was a clinical trial that opened up in Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville. I didn't even know they had a Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville. I just knew of the Minneapolis one. And in Jacksonville, they happened to have a team of researchers and doctors that were heading up this new trial. It was in kind of its final phase before they were going to go for FDA approval. And they basically, most trials have a lot of stipulations and rules around them. This one just said, you know what, we're going to open it up to all stage 4 melanoma patients around the globe, no matter what. And that's what they were doing. So we got wind of it. We called down there. They literally had us, they had me down there for a consultation and treatment within 3 days of our initial phone call. I've never experienced anything expedited like that in a hospital anywhere. Not to say anything negative about any other hospital chains, but it was amazing. Within 3 days, I was down there, had blood work, had CT scans, PET scans, saw the doctor, worked up treatment, and then started treatment and was sent home. And it was like, holy crap, like these guys, they know what they're doing. And literally the very first time my wife and I sat down with the oncologist, Dr. Richard Joseph, I'll never forget it. He was, at the time, a couple years older than me, young guy, had similar kids' ages as Gabriel. And he looked us square in the eye in the first 5 minutes of being there. And he said, we know you've been on a hard road. We are going to cure you. And it didn't matter if he ever did or didn't from that point forward. The fact that he looked us square in the eye, you could see it in his mannerisms and how genuine he was, that he believed to the core he was going to do everything that he could to cure me and to get us cancer free. And it was really the first positive meeting that we had since our surgical oncologist that basically looked us square in the eye, and you could feel that genuine feeling of he's positive. He thinks that no matter what, we're going to get through this. And after 18 months of traveling back and forth to Mayo Clinic, I was deemed cancer-free now 4.5 years ago in January, and just had my most recent PET scan just a week ago. And U of M doc, he did a virtual call, and he's like, well, yep, still cancer-free. All right, well, see you next time. And it was
Wow.
Awesome. We'll just keep rocking.
What an emotional journey all of that had to be. And
Yeah.
What I hear from you in other conversations that we had is, you look at things that happened for you that were blessings. When some people might have looked at those things as not being blessings, you've been able to uncover blessings in all of that. And even today, I mean, imagine what the world must be like for somebody today going into a hospital for all that stuff when people can't even visit or do anything, what that must be like. I mean, you were able to see your newborn, and to have that propel you and to keep you in the game, so to speak. So unbelievable.
Thank you. Yeah, there were so many. There's just the whole story, obviously we could talk for hours about every little detail, but there's so many twists and turns that you can see now, and looking back, everything unfolded exactly the way it was supposed to all along the way. And that was peaks and valleys and everything in between, but they all led me to the next moment. They all got me through that rough time to the next. And it's just, the biggest heartbreak I know that we went through during the journey, where it really hit me that, hey, maybe I'm not supposed to make it through all this, was about 6 months before we were enlisted into the trial at Mayo Clinic. We were going for a different trial at U of M. And this was a randomization trial where you enroll, 66% of the enrollees get twisted into the arm of, basically it was the drug that we wanted to go for, and 33% get enlisted into a random chemo drug that for melanoma virtually has zero effect. And I remember meeting with the oncologist, and he was like, this is great. 2/3 of our people will go into this one, 1/3 will go here. And he's like, and the even better news is, statistically, our last 9 people have been randomized into the chemo. He's like, so mathematically, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to go into the chemo, and you're going to get this drug, and it's going to be, and it was, the drug now even today is being used across many different cancers. It's kind of pioneering, cancer treatments. Instead of poisoning the body, build your immune system up. And so we were all amped up. And I remember the morning where we went in, where he, unveils what treatment we're going to have. And then I get the treatment like an hour later. He's like, he came in right when he walked in. I was with my mom and my wife, and you could just tell right away. It was like, he was horrible news. He felt awful. And he's a younger guy too. He was like, Mark, I'm almost speechless. He's like, you're randomized into the chemo. And I'll never forget the responses of all 3 of us. My wife and mom instantly, broke down naturally. And to sit there and say like I was all gung-ho would be a lie. But I just kind of took it in stride and was like, well, then that's just what I'm supposed to do. And my wife and my mom tried to talk me out of doing it, to seek out maybe other options. And I said, you know what, we've gone through so much, and if this is what I'm supposed to do, then that's what I'm supposed to do. And at the time I had a bigger than golf ball. I don't want to say space ball because that would be exaggerating. Maybe a racquetball size like tumor on my neck. And you could see it, and it was starting to crush, my throat and my, kind of my air pipe. And so they were getting concerned about that because it was too big to surgically remove. And it was weighing in the back of my mind that I'm going to suffocate to death one day from this stupid tumor. And so I enlisted into the chemo, and I think I only got about 9 treatments of it. It wasn't anything too long. And that tumor reduced down to almost nothing over the period of those 9 weeks. And at the end of the 9 weeks, it did start to spike back up. But during those 9 weeks, there were no other treatments available for that PD-1 drug I was going for, the immune drug, anywhere in the country. And at the end of it was when the Mayo Clinic trial opened up. It opened up right then. And it's easy to sit in the moment and say, well, poor me, I only got the chemo, I didn't get that drug and whatever else. But, maybe the chemo had to shrink that one just enough to where I could go get that other treatment at Mayo Clinic. And that ultimately is now what has me cancer free. And it's, and that was probably the lowest of the low moment when that hit our family with that news. Cause I think the reality of, I might not live that much longer really hit all of us, for real that time. And, to then go through everything that we went through and to be here and cancer free is just, it's such a blessing. It's really incredible to look at the journey now from almost a third party perspective, because it doesn't even feel real sometimes to think back.
Yeah, what an unbelievable journey. And so this all happened, and now you're cancer free, thank goodness. And you didn't just go back to the work that you were doing before. This also gave you the checkup from the neck up, right? Where you were trying to figure out, all right, I've got this new opportunity now in life, and you deeply appreciate it, but now you're using this opportunity to serve other people. Tell us about your shirt there, your Fund a Life, and
yeah,
you got a check behind you that looks pretty impressive. Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Definitely. I'll definitely get into that. Yeah, it's amazing. And my wife gets annoyed sometimes that I went through everything I went through, because my whole perspective on everything has changed because of everything I've been through. I mean, what you value as a person is very different. I used to value things and, the nice house, and I wanted the fast, expensive cars, and there's nothing wrong with those things, but that's what I valued. And through this all, it really has changed, just what's really important, and experiences over things, and family and, your time, and what is your legacy? What are you doing to leave behind for your kids and in this life? And you only get one opportunity for it. So what are you doing?
Sounds like your empathy levels went up big time, thinking
Definitely.
about, other people and what you can do to make a difference.
Definitely. And I think, I always use the analogy of when you buy a new car, all of a sudden you see that same car everywhere on the street. It just seems like overnight. It's like, oh my God, I see them everywhere now. And I keep looking out the window like you guys can see what I'm looking at, but you can't. That's where I'm looking.
You start seeing signs. You start seeing signs. You start seeing things that are kind of validating what you're thinking about in the path you're on.
Yeah. And it was now having cancer, it seemed like the whole community had cancer. It seemed like we knew tons of people who had cancer, and they were coming out of woodwork. It seemed like it's like, oh my gosh, has it always been this bad? And it just became very clear rapidly, like through that process, that these people also need a lot of help, and a lot of them don't have either the network or the means to financially get through those moments. And some of them would have a fundraiser we'd try to support, in person, and we'd go there for a spaghetti dinner or whatever the event was. And they might raise a couple $1,000s, and that was that was kind of their one big shindig, if you will. And someone from our community would throw me a fundraiser and raise 50, 60 grand. And it was like, something's wrong with this picture. Like, why should I have the ability to fundraise or to live life because I can raise more money and afford to go places when other people can't, just because of the network maybe that they share, or maybe they haven't lived here as long, or whatever the case might be. And so started looking into how does one go about funding some of these problems. And I applied for a couple grants when we were traveling to Mayo Clinic and back, especially. Our money was basically running out. I was trying to figure out other ways that we could do things. And there was so much red tape. It was so difficult to come by. And then even if you went through all of that, the final grant amount was like $500. And it was like, granted, that would be great, but that is such a minuscule amount when we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're trying to cover, that it almost wasn't even worth my time. It was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing things where they're rounding to the nearest $500.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so it just became apparent, started to call on me of like, hey, and at the time I was really involved in Relay for Life and other things, and those are great, but I started to get really drilled into, how does this money impact people in real time, in real life? Not just researching to eventually impact them, but the people that are grinding now, that need help now. How do you help give them hope? How do you help get them over the hump? And you don't know what some of those people too can go on and do with their lives, or how many other lives they might touch. And kind of with that thought was, hey, can I start an organization that might just fundraise year round? And when people hit crisis moments in their lives, it doesn't have to be cancer. It could be anything that kicks them when they're down and robs them of hope. Can we be a shining light in that moment and help them take some of that financial strain away, allow them to focus on the things that are most important, and keep their spirits up and get them in a spot where they can crush whatever it is that they're facing. And so we started Fund a Life with that mission in mind, to help people facing major life-altering circumstances of all kinds. And so now we fundraise year round, and we take grant recipients and of all different kinds. It could be a house fire, it could be cancer, it could be any kind of health diagnosis, it could be anything that robs them of hope and gets people when they're down. We see a lot of different types of applicants come in. A lot of them, unfortunately, are cancer related, I think because of the tie-in with my story and how it got started, and just the prevalence of the disease. Yeah. But we're starting to see some more different types of people come in, and we're trying to help as many different groups and different varieties of people that we can with our tiny little organization.
And is that exclusive to the state of Michigan in terms of your reach?
It is. Okay. So we keep, we have a couple supporters that are out of state. Most of them are family, or, family of a board member, what have you, but 99.9% of all dollars that come in are within the state of Michigan. And so we feel strongly that, people want to help where they live. People want to see their dollars at work and see where their support is going. So we keep all of our money here in the state of Michigan. Most of our grant recipients are here in Livingston County, or kind of just outside of that. I think just because of our network and who we reach and our story, but we don't have exclusive to that, and we have helped people outside of Livingston County, across the state.
So Fund a Life has been around then for what, 4 years, 5 years? I'm just trying to
So
guess a little bit.
we actually got the 501c3 status in 2015.
Okay.
We didn't do anything with it for like 2 years while I sort of, I was still in treatment, and we're sort of figuring out like, all right, now what? That's great. We have all this corporation stuff done. Now what the heck are we going to do with it all? And in 2017, we did our first event, our first annual 5K and yoga event, and with Brighton Yoga Center and Running Lab here in town. And that was great. And that really kicked off our grant cycle. We were able to award a couple of grants coming out of that. And some of those people are still dear friends of mine from that, which is super cool. And, each year we've just basically ramped up our events. We've ramped up everything we've been doing. And it became clear in the summer of 2018 that if we were really going to take that next step and get this mission as broad and as impactful as my desire and my passion for it, that somebody was going to have to do this full time, and they were going to have to spend all their energy in it. And, especially initially, like, that person has to be me. I mean, if it's going to grow to how I want to see it grow, and if I'm going to insert the energy, then I need to be the one doing that. And so my wife and I had a lot of discussions, and financially, and my job here was great at Visiting Angels at the time. And so to take that big leap of, hey, we have a nice comfortable job with a steady paycheck and things are predictable, to, hey, you're not getting paid anymore and good luck with that. That took a lot of convincing at home. Right? Yeah, that was interesting. But so far so good. We've been doing it now for, gosh, what has it been now? A year and a half to almost 2 years. And things just continue to grow, and our impact is growing, our support network's growing, the people's lives that we impact are growing. And it's, truth be told, and being completely transparent, it is a bit of therapy for me as well. Raising money to give it away as a profession is kind of a dream job. And, to see the people's lives firsthand that we do insert hope into and we're able to impact really helps reinvigorate my energy into Fund a Life and just my purpose for being here. And that's why I love being goofy and hopping as many different places as I can. And I always try to meet all of our grant recipients in person. And I love to hand them that physical check to get that emotional response and help also fill my bucket.
Make that connection. Yeah. Make that connection.
And it's
awesome.
It's just people being people. And anytime you can help anybody in any degree, there's something that's rewarding in that. And, just trying to do that as often and as big as we can now with Fund a Life.
So I would assume you have a website that folks can go to, and you accept donations in all different sizes, and you do activities and events as well too. You want to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, our website is fundalife.org, nice and simple. And, you can send in inquiries. You can actually send grant applications right from our website as well. If you go to how to apply, that tab, you can make donations right on the website as well, one time or monthly or however you wish. No gift is too small, and certainly no gift is too big.
Yeah, for sure.
And, we're really just limited by the amount of funds and resources that we have with the amount of people that we can touch. So, it's really up to that. The other part of that is we do get a lot of, just because of our network and I think where we are, we get a lot of soft inquiries, I'll say, for grant recipients, where people will send me a Facebook message or a text or a call to, like, what's cool about our organization, and also what's maybe painful on both sides, is I'm, the face of Fund a Life and I'm out there promoting it, but I'm also a non-voting member of the organization for all things financial. So when a grant application comes in or somebody turns me on to a grant application, I need that application to submit to our committee to get the process rolling. I physically can't do anything with, hey, I have a friend, Joey, who has cancer, or his son was in a bad accident. Can you help them? It's like, well, potentially I can. Please fill out the application and we can get that thing rolling. And a lot of people are very sensitive to like, well, I don't want to fill out the application, and maybe they'll do it. I can tell you right now, if you just forward the application to a family member or someone of that family who is already stressed, they're not going to take the time to do it. They're going to feel like they're a burden. Everyone has a sense of pride about them. They don't want to ask for help, and I get it. Take that leap and just apply on behalf of that person. And if there's more information we need to seek out, we can go ask those questions. But at least get that process rolling, and that's really the first point to get things going for us. And then back to your question of events and different things. Obviously, in today's climate, that is a moving target, but we do typically do different types of events. We're still scheduled currently for our 4th annual 5K and yoga event on July 11th. I don't yet know what that's going to look like. We're in discussions right now with our timer on potentially doing a socially distanced event. He's been able to pull some off other ways. Obviously, a lot of the world is moving virtual. We're trying to kind of toe the line of maybe doing a virtual event / still get that personal connectivity if people want to still participate. And beyond that event, we're currently evaluating what else we want to do virtually and beyond. It's in today's climate to make it a little bit harder to plan for any type of physical event for sure. And so we're in much of the same waters as many organizations with that's event heavy and especially fundraising. So we're sort of figuring that out with hopefully more news to come soon.
Okay, and then another question I've got for you too is I know that you had partnered with Trusted Heating and Cooling, so you can come up with maybe creative ways in which you can partner, and this is one of the things we talked about with CaerUSnet, is that you can, if you find a business that is like, geez, Mark, we would really like to support you, we're just not sure what to do or how to go about doing that. You're like an idea machine, right? So you can come at them with a few different ideas, and maybe there's a way that business can even, in addition to supporting you, maybe also do some sort of a promotion in their business that even drives sales and also gives them a good view from the customer perspective that, hey, this business isn't just about the bottom line and profit. As they're doing things, they also are trying to give back to the community, right?
100%. And I think, especially in the community like Livingston County, I think a lot of people and customers and consumers in general, they love to support small businesses and organizations that are aligned with various give back type organizations, like a Fund a Life, or, there's a lot of great ones in our area. And so, in the example of Trusted Heating and Cooling, which was awesome, is one of the owners, Jennifer, and I actually have been friends since we were kids. We went through 1st through 8th grade at St. Pat's together, and life happened. You distance out, you stay in touch via social media, what have you. And I went as a guest to a CaerUSnet morning. I think it was a Tuesday morning meeting, Wednesday morning.
Yeah, it was Wednesday 10 o'clock. I think
Wednesday 10 o'clock.
Jimmy Plasky was the guy that told you about CaerUSnet, right?
That's right. Yeah, Jimmy is the one who. So I was in a group with Jimmy originally, and he kind of like turned me on to CaerUSnet, and then he invited me as a guest to that group because he said, "Hey, the energy's great. We already have a nonprofit, but come check it out again. Let's get you reinvigorated." And Jimmy's always advocating for everybody, trying to get people involved anywhere he can.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
And that was awesome. And so I just go as a group or as a guest to that morning meeting, and here Jennifer, we kind of rekindle everything that our friendship, and she's like, "Hey, I've got some ideas. Let's partner up and let's do something." And from there, we spawned a great campaign that kicked off 2020, where we raised like $2,500, and it brought about a lot of brand awareness, both for Fund a Life, but also for Trusted Heating and Cooling. We had a lot of fun together. We did a lot of live videos from her store, and it was just awesome energy, and it brought about some good social media awareness on her brand and ours as well. And it was strictly related to extra sales of one of her product lines that they already offer. And so they basically just took a portion of those proceeds that they were selling. So for everything that they signed up, they would donate a small portion of that back to Fund a Life. And after they lined up a whole bunch of the jobs, they were able to make one, pretty sizable donation to Fund a Life, which was amazing. And, it's just what I find so cool about that is, especially with small businesses and especially now where everyone's budgets are tight and everyone is wondering what's going to happen and what to do with their business and revenue, is, we can always partner up in a different, unique way. And we can look at doing a campaign that is custom to your business on what you're doing. And we can make it a give back campaign of whatever makes sense to do. If it's, whatever, it doesn't really matter what it is, but we can brainstorm and we can come up with something cool. We can find someone to do some live videos and get your name out there. We can co-brand the campaign, and it's great publicity for that organization, to say, hey, we're giving back and we're doing this. And so when you sign up for this, whatever this service is or whatever this product is, know that a portion of that is also going to this great organization. And we get to have some fun together. We build a good relationship, and who knows what other doors that might open down the road. And what was cool about, in Jennifer's case, is a couple of her suppliers got wind of our campaign. One of them hopped on board and donated a lot of the products for a furnace. So we were actually able to grant a grant recipient a whole new furnace. Trusted Heating and Cooling did the work.
Wow.
The organization, the supplier, and I don't remember their name. I wish I could give them a shout out, but I don't know their name. Donated a lot of the, the ductwork and the hardware. I'm not a furnace guy, so I don't know what all those parts are. But,
on and off.
Yeah, and then we were trying, and then we came in with a small financial, grant as well from our portion. We were able to pass it through from the nonprofit standpoint, and that one of her other suppliers hopped on board and donated, I think it was like an $800 piece. It was like a UV air filtration unit that she was able to give away to someone who had signed up for the services as well. So it was just really cool seeing people just rally behind good causes and good messaging and good things. And that energy just always pays it forward. You keep doing the right things with the right people, and things find a way to just work out in the end.
Well, I am absolutely thrilled to have you, in the CaerUSnet network. I'm not a person that has a lot of financial means myself, where I can write somebody a check with a bunch of commas in it. But I do have.
Not yet, Steve. Not yet.
but one thing I'm very rich in is I'm very rich in fantastic relationships. I have a lot of wealth in the quality of people around me. And so that was when I started thinking about it, especially like for yourself. You're not just an entrepreneur. You're not just a nonprofit. You're an entrepreneurial nonprofit. There's no roadmap that was laid out for you to follow. You figured this out as you went, and then you created a blueprint for yourself. So I think that's really exciting. So you can identify in a CaerUSnet group because you're a business person too. You're an entrepreneur too, and you're also a nonprofit that can really help a lot of people. So let me just let me finish with this, if you don't mind, really quickly. Actually, I'm going to finish with this in a second. I want to know about that $60,000 check hanging over your head over there. So give me the 60 seconds on that.
Yeah, definitely. We were every year Brighton High School does the Senior Survivor. It's a week-long event where in traditionally years they have, I think it's 8 different teams of 2 compete in different challenges and events. They stay at the high school all week. They sleep there, everything else. Last year, we were the charity chosen to be the benefactor of that. And so I had an amazing experience. I stayed up at the high school with the kids. It was so much fun. It was literally at the end of the week. I don't know that anybody left the week without tears in their eyes. It was just a life-changing experience. But these kids begged, borrowed, and stole to raise $60,000 in 1 week through sponsorships, through events, through being goofy, through hustling, through selling baked goods. And that check went to Fund a Life and helped us write 14 different grants last year to different people, and some of our grants to kick off this year in 2020. And that was our single largest, check at that point to date. And it was just an amazing partnership and an amazing event.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then the finishing question I've got for you is, your experience yourself now in CaerUSnet, what might you say to another nonprofit that what might they find of value if they wanted to visit a CaerUSnet group where there was an opportunity to be the nonprofit? What have you enjoyed the most yourself? Where are you finding value?
Man, I'm finding value in the relationships and just hearing the different stories and different people's whys of why they're involved in whatever business they're in. I think that anytime, I mean, we're in especially right now, it's so important to stay connected and to be learning from what other people are doing. And it doesn't always serve you. I look at being a part of CaerUSnet as not, okay, what am I going to get out of this, right? I'm learning and I'm filling my bucket also just by hearing what other people are doing and what's working for them or what challenges they're facing. And through hearing all of those, you end up navigating through it and creatively thinking about, hey, I think I might be able to help that person in this way, or I might be able to connect them with so-and-so, or, hey, I think I could do this differently because that's a really good idea that Joanne is doing. There's so many different ways that you can learn and benefit from it. And it's an hour a week. I'm just as busy as everyone else. Everyone's super busy and I haven't been able to make all the meetings, but I can make most of them, especially now. And it's funny, once you're able to make it a priority, and I struggled with that in the beginning. Sure. And once you're able to make that a priority and sort of figure out the new life balance of, hey, another meeting, it's an hour meeting, you end up looking forward to it and you start to build those relationships. And I came into the meeting that I'm a part of right now, and I knew no one. I knew you loosely. I kind of knew your name, and I knew no one else, which was exciting and also a little bit intimidating. But what I love is you make it easy for people to be a member. It's very simple, but yet structured. So I don't have to come there and wonder every week, oh my gosh, what am I going to do to prepare for this meeting? And what do I need to say? You know what? If I have nothing prepared, I get to just shoot from the hip. And, I talk for maybe a maximum of 1 minute, every week. And if I'm the spotlight presenter and I get to present all my material, then great. But if not, you still have value. Or if you're shy, you can kind of, it just gives you enough structure to where you can feel equipped and comfortable to share yourself, whether you're extroverted or introverted. But it also gives you the free reign where you don't feel like you're bogged down. It's a really healthy balance, I found, with what to expect from a meeting and not feel like you are left out or not pulling your weight or, doing any one thing too much.
Awesome. Thank you. And for those of you that aren't familiar with CaerUSnet, we're a weekly meeting in nature. We only schedule 30 of these meetings a year because I look at it as like the your favorite food syndrome, right? Like no matter what your favorite food is, no matter if you eat it too much, you don't want that anymore. So I like to kind of space the meetings out so we can have breaks and come back fresh and like, hey, I miss seeing your face. That's where you want people to be, is to miss seeing each other when you're not around each other, and coming together, pulsing as often as we do is what helps assist building those relationships, because they know you're going to be there. They know that, hey, I'll see Mark this Tuesday. I can send him this question in a chat or whatever it might be. So, well, I really appreciate, you taking time out of your schedule to share your story with us. It really is, I feel grateful to know you. I feel even more grateful and blessed at the amazing life that I've had. We've all had ups and downs in life, but yours is not an up or a down. I mean, yours is, oh my gosh. I mean, just something nobody would ever wish on anybody or could ever even imagine themselves going through. And I appreciate that you took what happened to you, and like you said, you didn't lay on your side and suck your thumb or just get back to normal and then just go about your life like it was going before. You reflected, you found purpose. So I guess final question will be this: where do you want to see Fund to Life go? What's the big, hairy, audacious picture as to where Fund to Life can go?
Wow, I don't know. That is the big question. I think it's so hard to quantify what that might look like, because it's, there's always more people to help. There's always more I feel like there's always more that can be done no matter what pillar. We have some goals right now. We're kind of in the middle of like my big thing is like mission to $1 million, trying to raise $1 million in an annual year, just because I don't know why that would equate to right now our average grant size is about $5,000 per family. And so, you start backing out of that number and you start looking at the amount of lives that you can impact through certain amounts of money. And you're like, that would be amazing to write this many different checks throughout the course of the year. This would be amazing to impact this many people and see. We already have started to see some of these lives take off in different directions because of the ability and the hope that we were able to insert into them. And to see that ripple out would just be a legacy that I can't quite envision, but really hope to make. And, we hope to basically just have a presence in the major areas of Michigan in the next 2 years where they know our name. We have ambassadors on the floor in those areas helping push forth Fund a Life. And it's not just Mark Howell from Brighton,
Right.
There's a lot of other faces and names to it. So that I think my ultimate goal is the further I can remove myself from Fund a Life as Mark Howell and Fund a Life as a standalone organization that does this, that will be a truly proud and moving moment when those two things kind of separate a bit, knowing that I was able to build it to a point that it took off and went beyond just, the cancer guy from Brighton.
Yeah. So your big hairy picture then would be, creating a legacy nonprofit that is going to exist and serve people, whether you're walking the earth or not. People are being impacted by your story and your vision, and other people are delivering the goods. And I just think that's awesome. It's going to happen.
Let's hope so. Thank you.
It's going to. I believe
that's
it
1,000%.
1,000%.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mark, I really appreciate the time you spent with me today.
Thank you.
For everybody watching, please take a look in the drop down below on YouTube. There'll be a link to Mark's website. Mark's information will be there as well too. If you have somebody that needs a grant, he can help you with that. If you want to be involved in some sort of a fundraiser, he can help with that. You're catching somebody who is living the vision right now. So Mark Howell from Fund a Life, thanks for your time today on Staying Connected.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All the places we